make it a little bit bigger. Do you remember how far we got on this list? Anyone remember how far we got on this list?
You're up to 6.
Really? Okay. Right. So number 5 was when you asked the guy to do something, and b'derech psikresha. Remember that was you asked him to open the fridge and the light goes on. You ask him to use the hot water, and we know that at the back of the boiler is going to go on, and we said that's okay because you're giving instruction for that. And by the way, but that's not what you're giving him the shlichus for. That's the Alter Rebbe's spells this out. Then we have when you tell, so rule 6 is you give the guy instruction to do something, and he could do it in a permitted way, and he chooses to do it in a forbidden way.
Like
now,
cleaning up a room.
Okay. Yes. Now in this there's a difference. There's 2 levels in this. For example, I told the maid to wash the dishes. I didn't tell her hot water, cold water, that's a side dish. To wash the dishes, she switches on the light. She could wash the dishes in poor light also. So, but she's doing the job of washing dishes, which is a dvar heter. She's choosing to switch on the light to make life easier for herself. Then there's a different thing. I tell the goy to clean the floor, and the goy goes and takes the vacuum cleaner and cleans the floor. Is that the same thing as the other one? Do you see a difference here?
Yeah, because it's easier for it to use the vacuum.
Pardon?
Because it's easier for it to use the vacuum. So
that's the similarity. But the difference is, here I told her to wash the dishes, and she's washing the dishes. That's a dvar heter. Switching on the light is not washing the dishes. She just chose to do something to make life easier for her. Here I told her to clean the room, and he's actually cleaning the room. And he's cleaning the room b'derech yisur. It's a different thing. Here I'm telling you, he's doing my instruction b'derech yisur. When she switches on the light to wash the dishes, so she's washing the dishes my shlichus, the light has nothing to do with me. But when she's cleaning the floor with a weird vacuum cleaner, why are you doing this? Because the rabbi told me to clean the floor. So that is worse. Yeah. So the first one is a glatte heter. It's straightforward. The second case where they're carrying out your shlichus in a forbidden way, that the Alter Rebbe is not really so happy with. He says you should avoid it. But the poil, many people do rely on it. There's a particular Chabad house. You know, Baruch Hashem, we live in a part of the world where everyone has a house and a garden. In some parts of the world, most people live in apartments. And that raises a very big problem for sukkahs, because they don't have, if they live in a block of flats, most people who live in blocks of flats don't have a chance to make their own sukkah. So what do? So in some Chabad houses, in these places, they have a sukkah, right? And they lay on meals. And they have, let's say, a caterer, and people can book meals for Yom Tov. So it becomes a whole business. You know, it's a whole catering geschäft. For a few days Yom Tov, you've got tables and waiters and cooks. And so one particular place, they were having all these waiters setting the tables, and then they had to clear the table because, let's say, it's going to be hakofas. They have to clear all those tables. So you've got this, let's say, 50 tables, and they come along, the guy has to take away those tables. He comes along with a forklift truck. On Yom Tov, he's coming along with a forklift truck, and it's moving furniture left, right, and center. And it's all because the rabbi told him to clear away the tables. He's not so posh. It looks very odd. He's there. So let's give you another example, which is the same thing. I tell the guy, we're having, on the second floor, we're having a lunch on Yom Shabbos, and I need to bring 50 chairs from the basement. So there's one way you can do. You can start trudging up the stairs with 5 chairs at a time, and you'll bring the 50 chairs to the top floor, to the 3rd floor, whatever. Or he just takes them into the lift, presses a button, takes them up. Is that galat or is it not galat? According to our discussion. Is that the better one or the worse one?
The worst one.
The worst one, that's right. Because he's actually doing my bidding. When he takes those chairs onto the lift and presses the button, etc., he's transporting the chairs. I told him to transport the chairs. He's transporting the chairs in a way which is awesome. So there are heterim for it, but that's really pushing it a little bit. Yeah, the Alter Rebbe is not very happy about that one. Let's move on. How do I get this to move on? Anyone? Oh, okay. Next. Then we have, let's say you give your car to the mechanic and you want it ready. You want it ready for Monday morning. And then the mechanic, he's working on your car on Shabbos. So that's okay. You've given him a job to service your car. It's going to take him 4 hours. He can choose to do those 4 hours on Friday, on Shabbos, on Sunday. He wants to go to the park. He wants to take his family out on Sunday. He wants to go to the Tumah on Sunday. I don't care what. For his convenience, he doesn't want to work on the car on Sunday, so he works on the car on Shabbos. That's for himself. So that's okay, yeah? You just have to be careful, emotional. Imagine if your car had on it, I don't know, Hamish name, Talmud Torah Spinker, all on the side. Got Talmud, then you got a Shabbos afternoon. There's bus driving around. Talmud Torah Spinker Shabbos afternoon is driving around. Yeah, it look a bit odd. Yeah, so you wouldn't want the guy to be driving if your car is clearly belonging to a yid. You wouldn't want the guy to be driving that car on Shabbos, where it's going to be a maras ayin. Yeah. Of course, that's not discussed in Shulchan Aruch, but Shulchan Aruch does discuss. Let's say you've given it to a goyish washerman who does the washing, and he does it by the river, and you're giving him a beged who's got tzitzis. So anyone who sees him washing the clothes will say, "Oh, he's doing this work for a yid," which could raise a problem. Yeah? May I order something on Amazon Prime on Friday, knowing that it's going to arrive on Shabbos?
You should avoid it.
I was expecting someone to say, what is Amazon Prime? Baruch Hashem, everyone knows it is. Okay. Yeah. So you should avoid it. Why? Because they're going to do it.
Because you know it's going to come.
Right.
You know it's going to come.
What happens if you call them up or whatever, you order it on Friday morning? There's enough time for them to deliver it from the depot to you on Friday. The fact that they say, no, we're not going to do it on Friday, Amazon Prime is tomorrow. Yeah. So that's, perhaps you can say that's L'tovas Atzma. And if you ordered it with there's enough time for it to be delivered on Friday, perhaps that would be okay. Yeah.
I would have thought it's such a thing. There's a bigger problem with maris ayin, and not with whether a guy is going to work on Shabbos or not.
I didn't get you again.
People get packages the whole time on Shabbos that they ordered that's going to come in the next 2 weeks. So why would there be a problem of my?
And yeah, I mean, okay, good point. Yeah. So really, yeah, you can make an order. Where I had once the following problem, which was much more complicated. There's someone who they had booked a ticket to travel on Sunday. Family were traveling, and someone's passport had expired, and they had to renew the passport, and it was only going to be ready on Shabbos. Could they have a goyish courier to pick up the passports on Shabbos to deliver it to them, that they should be able to travel on Sunday?
It's Tzarech Gadol.
Pardon?
Yeah, Tzarech Gadol, like a hefset, because if he misses his flight, he's going to lose money.
Maybe a few £100 down the drain, yeah. So you're saying we can, but you can't ask a guy to do an Isser Torah, right? Who says it's Isser Torah? Where to go and to stand in the embassy, whatever, to stand there and pick up a passport, it's not an Isser Torah. The question is, are you asking him to carry it? Is asking a guy to carry something through the street, asking him to do an isim na Torah? Okay.
Also tchum.
That the tchum is the lesser problem, because you're not going to have hanoah from it on Shabbos. You're going to have the hanoah on Motzei Shabbos. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a very interesting story. Two shluchim. There's a father and a son, and it's Erev Pesach. It's a true story. And the son calls me up and he says, I'm Raskin, I've got a big problem. I had planned for 50 people for my Seder night, and now I've got another 5 people. I'm overbooked. I've only got 50 portions of chicken for the second night. What should I do? And then he says, now the chef who took it to me is a Goyish chef, and he is the first night is doing this public Seder in another town, and then on Erev Pesach, so on Pesach, the morning after this first Seder, he's going to get on a plane and he's going to come to my town.
Blah. Where's Nala?
Shy. Okay, problem solved. Okay, so that was his shaila. Could he have the chef who's coming to him in any case? Could he have the father had spares to wrap up 5 portions of meat or chicken, and there would be double wrapped? It shouldn't be a shaila of bosash and salmonine, and the goyish chef will bring them from one town to the other. So you'll have enough portions for the Seder night, for the second Seder. So my first reaction was, Michutz l'tchum? Yeah, Levi? And then I called him back a minute later. The halacha is the 2 days of Yom Tov. If, let's say, a cow is milked on the first day, you can't have the milk on that day, but you can have it on the second day. If a chicken lays an egg on the first day of Yom Tov, you'd have to have the chicken on the second day of Yom Tov. So by the same basis, if something was brought michutz l'tchum on the first day of Yom Tov, you'll have to have it on the second day of Yom Tov. So on that basis, I said that it's okay. The guy brings it. Then the business, all right, we worked it out. It's certainly not a lechatchila, but that was a circumstance. Okay. So you're right. If something is brought michutz l'tchum, we're going to have a problem of using it on that day. I once had the shaila. Someone called me up from Scandinavia. You ever heard of Scandinavia? So he calls me up that his father-in-law had come to spend Sukkot with them, his Erev Yom Tov. When he arrived in the airport in Scandinavia, all the luggage, he waits for his luggage, not there. So they apologize that his luggage hadn't been put on the plane. So they said, as good airlines do, they say it's going to come tomorrow in the next plane, same time, 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., and we will deliver it to your house. All right. So now in his suitcase is his kapota and his esrig and perhaps some other things. So now Veta Shaila, what would happen, Taka, the following day, the first day of Yom Tov, Sukkot's morning, and the airline driver comes along with a suitcase. I apologize, here's your suitcase. Is he allowed to use his kapota? Is he allowed to use his esrog, which has come now michutz l'tchum? Yeah? So to use the kapota he can't use, because it came michutz l'tchum. To use the esrog, he's allowed to use the esrog, because the esrog is not called a hanoah. Have you ever heard of a rule, mitzvos lav lehonos nitnu? Anyone familiar? That a mitzvah is not called a personal benefit. So therefore, the esrog is not called, he's not eating the esrog, he's doing a mitzvah. So he's allowed to use the esrog. But he's not allowed to take the esrog to shul. Because something which came michutz l'tchum mustn't go out of dal damas. So the whole house, with the wall around the house and the sukkah, it's all surrounded with a mechitza, is called dal damas. It's allowed to carry the esrog from the house to the sukkah if it's all within one complex. But to carry the esrog to shul, chutz the dal damas, he wouldn't be allowed to. Second day of Yom Tov is allowed to. Because what was brought michutz the tchum on the first day may be used freely on the second day. So it's the derech hagav d'kazach. Okay, but so let's come back. So we were talking about deliveries. So if a goy does a job, lahanoas atzmoi, he does a job on Shabbos, lahanoas atzmoi, so you're allowed to leave him do it. So this is, let's go through this a little bit more carefully. When we spoke about giving your car to the mechanic, we weren't talking about you enjoying the car on Shabbos. All we're saying is, are you telling the goy to work for you? And the answer is no. Because he can, same thing, you give something into the cleaners. You give it something into the cleaners on Friday, and they're closed on Shabbos. So they're closed on Sunday, so they're going to do it on Shabbos. Is that okay? So the answer is yes, because you're not telling them not to wash your clothes on Sunday. They're choosing to be open on Shabbos and can be closed on Sunday. So you're allowed to pick up your freshly dry cleaned stuff on Monday, and you're good. So long as the key here is, so long as the goy had enough time to do your job before or after Shabbos, you're okay. One exception to this is very important here. You're not allowed to have a goy do work for you in this way on your premises. Whether it's your house or it's known, say if I bought a house for development, so to buy properties, so I bought a property. The property is, let's say, the other part of Stamford Hill, and I've got a contractor. Is he allowed to work on Shabbos on my property? Putting in windows, or building the front, or doing decorating? Is a guy allowed to? I made a price for him, with him, that you're going to decorate this room. I'm going to pay you £500 for the decorating. Whether he does it on Sunday or does it at 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. Is he allowed to go into my property and work on Shabbos? Got it? And the answer is, if it's within a Jewish area, it's awesome. Even though I'm not paying per hour, I'm paying him for the job. But because people might think that I'm paying him to come in on Shabbos, therefore he's not allowed to. If it had been somewhere in a Goyish area, if I've got my property somewhere in Stoke-on-Trent or in Wolverhampton or some other Goyish place, where there's no Yidden going to see the work, and he wants to work their Shabbos, that's okay. Because I'm not telling him to work on Shabbos. I'm telling him to do the job, and he's choosing his own time. That would be okay if it's not B'tchum Yisrael. If I'm paying him for the time, he wouldn't be allowed to work on Shabbos in any case. Right.
If he tells you he's going to work on Shabbos,
that's still okay. That's still okay. You can tell him. It's you're talking about not in Tchum Yisrael, or it's a portable thing like a car. Yeah, that's okay. He tells you can tell him this. That's your choice, and that's your decision. I don't care either way. Right. Then we have the next rule we have is where there is a machlokas haposkim. I think I mentioned this before, the last lesson, where there's something. So in the previous lesson, Taka, we spoke about opening cans. And I told you that I was taught, and that's the way I'm noyek, that I don't open cans on Shabbos. Because yesh omrim that yesh binyan b'kelim is machlokas in the Bavli, Yerushalmi, etc. Because a keli is called a binyan, so I don't know. But there are those who hold the ein binyan b'kelim. Therefore, if I need to open a can, I'll ask a goy. Because when it comes to Amirah lNechri, I'll rely on the more lenient opinion that ein binyan b'kelim. If you follow, whenever there's a machlokas, whether it's asur or mutar min haTorah, so when it comes to asking a goy, I could rely on this. So I had a shaila recently. Someone wanted to buy a pet, a ferret. Did I tell you about this? I want to buy a pet. It's a ferret is a kind of small animal. They're very cute, but don't let them bite you because they can be quite vicious. For some weird reason, and it was very important to him that this animal should be neutered. It shouldn't be able to have children. For some reason, he had a whole explanation. So now we're not allowed to. You're not allowed to neuter an animal. The Torah says we're not allowed to. And some say that guy is also not allowed to. But then it turns out it wasn't a male. If it would be a male taka, it would be very difficult to find a heter. If it was a female is more glad that you're you are allowed to. Certainly not Isam in Torah. At any rate, so when I realized that, I looked into it. I spent a long time. I spent a few hours probably looking up till I found this. So I realized this. Anyway, I told him he is allowed to because wherever there's something which min Torah it's not so clear, so asking a goy permits us to do it. Yeah? Doesn't mean that everything you can ask a goy to do. For example, working on Chol Hamoed, you can't ask a goy either. If you're not allowed to do it yourself, you can't ask a goy. And then lots of things that you're not allowed to ask a goy. But where there's machlokas, you can rely on the lenient opinion to ask a goy to do it. Right. One last thing we have here. When you tell the goy a story, and so we have the famous story with the Alter Rebbe, which is told in the Likutei Diburim. It was once a very, very heavy snow. Very, very, you know the story? Where the very big storm and lots of people had caught colds, and the Alter Rebbe was going to come to Shminat Atzeres by night, and the Alter Rebbe said, tell Kutshma the Goy that we cannot sit in the sukkah when it's covered with snow. So Kutshma understood, and he took a spade, and he shoveled off the snow from the top of the sukkah. I'm not sure exactly why the sukkah is possible if it's covered with snow, but that's the side issue. So he didn't tell the goy to go and clear off the snow, but he told him that we can't sit in the sukkah where there's snow. So we have this kind of thing where we tell the goy a story, and we tell him that it's dark inside, and we can't eat supper in the dark, and we're not allowed to switch on the light. And then if the goy comes in, if you remember we discussed it last time, it's only if the goy has benefit for himself. In fact, the fact that you didn't tell him, that's not enough of a heter. It has to be that the goy actually benefits from it himself. If he switches on the light because he wants to have a cup of tea or he wants to have a drink, and meanwhile you have the light also, then it's ner le'echol ner le'meir, then that would be okay. But just to tell him it's these stories, that's where people get mixed up with this. Just telling a goy, it's very hot weather, and my flowers are dying, and the guy starts taking his watering can and watering your flowers. Sorry, that's not okay. The fact that you didn't tell him, Nochmer, I told you the last lesson. I had my next door neighbor. He used to be generous. He used to spritz his hose onto my flowers also. But on Shabbos, I'd have to tell him, Mr. Razak, excuse me, but for us as a Yidden, we're not allowed to water those. Please don't water my flowers on Shabbos. No, sure. Nice man. So he wouldn't do it on Shabbos.
Are you allowed to tell some people in Stanford Hill bring in Shabbos a bit later than Lubavitch does? Are you allowed to tell them specifically what you need if you're their neighbor?
Nochmer, why do you have to do it that way? Lubavitches take on Shabbos later than most of the people in Stanford Hill.
My next door neighbor brings in Shabbos a bit later than us. Sometimes we...
Yeah. So I don't know, why does he bring it so much later?
I don't know.
After Shkia?
No idea, but this week happened. I don't know exactly what they do, but sometimes they're a bit later. I don't know exactly how.
All right. Let's put it this way. In summer, many people are Makabel Shabbos, let's say 8 o'clock, and the Lubavitchers are, after Lochas, are waiting till 9 o'clock. Yeah. So then they can ask us. They forgot to switch on the light, to switch on the hot plate. They can tell us even in a straight way. They don't have to beat around the bush, and they can tell us. Well, where it becomes a little bit more interesting is perhaps what you're asking to Yaakov. What happens if, according to me, I'm a Kabbalah Shabbos at Shkia, but if for some reason he's following a different Rav who says Shkia, you have another few minutes after Shkia. that's much more of a problem, because as far as I'm concerned, it's already Shabbos. Yeah, so I wouldn't be allowed to ask him. If as far as I'm concerned, it's Shabbos, I couldn't ask another Yid to do something. Let's come to the Eruv, because we are both in the Eruv zone now. As I spoke on Friday, I spoke for the Olam, the Eruv is a kosher Eruv. I'm not going to use it because of for reasons of to be extra, machmir, etc. And people shouldn't learn to use it when there's no Eruv. Forget. But I would, if I needed to ask someone to carry something in the Eruv, I'm allowed to. But if I would say the Eruv is not kosher, it's just as Jewish as me. I can't ask him to use the Eruv when I wouldn't rely on it because I think it's not kosher. Yeah. So that's a bit of a difference. So if I know that it's not Shabbos yet, just I'll be Mekabel Shabbos early, I can ask another Yid to do Malacha for me. If, as far as I'm concerned, it's already Shabbos, then I'm not allowed to ask another Yid. All right? A goy I could. All right, so we'll stop there, and we'll meet again, Bez Hashem, on Thursday.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, I'm saying whatever.